The thunderstorm raged like a living beast, rattling the windows of Jackson Reed's isolated farmhouse. Rain hammered against the tin roof in an endless assault while lightning split the sky in jagged white forks. Jackson nursed a glass of whiskey, his weathered face illuminated briefly by each flash. At 42, the former Marine had found solace in this remote corner of Montana, away from the memories that haunted him. A tremendous crash from the direction of his barn cut through the storm's cacophony. Jackson tensed, setting down his glass with deliberate care. Probably just the wind, he told himself, but years of combat had honed instincts that refused to be silenced. He grabbed his shotgun and a flashlight before stepping into the downpour. The beam cut weakly through the darkness as he approached the old wooden structure, water streaming down his face and soaking his clothes in seconds. The barn door swung wildly on its hinges, slamming back and forth in the gale. "Hello?" Jackson called, voice barely audible above the storm. "Anyone there?" His flashlight caught a glimpse of something moving in the shadows behind his tractor. Something that glimmered with an unnatural iridescence. "I know you're there," Jackson said more firmly, raising his shotgun. "Come out slowly." A tall figure emerged, and Jackson felt his breath catch. She, for the being was unmistakably female in form, stood nearly 7 feet tall. Her skin shimmered with a pearlescent blue glow that pulsed faintly, like heartbeats. Large, almond-shaped eyes regarded him warily, their color a deep violet that seemed to absorb his flashlight's beam rather than reflect it. "Please," the being spoke, her voice carrying an otherworldly harmonic quality that made the hairs on Jackson's arms stand on end. "No harm." 2 smaller figures appeared from behind her, clinging to what appeared to be a tattered jumpsuit of some unknown material. Children, Jackson realized with a jolt. Alien children. "My name Nora," the tall being continued, struggling with human speech. "These. Taro and Vela. My offspring." Jackson lowered his shotgun slightly, mind reeling. "You're not from around here, are you?" A sound escaped Nora that might have been laughter, though it held more desperation than humor. "Not from your world. Our ship, damaged. No choice but land." The smaller beings, the twins, trembled, their skin flickering with fear. One had a nasty gash across its arm, oozing a silvery substance that Jackson assumed was blood. "You're hurt," he said, nodding toward the injured child. Nora's posture became more protective. "Vela injured in crash. Need shelter. Just until storm passes. Then we go." Jackson studied them, years of military assessment kicking in automatically. They were clearly frightened, injured, and desperate. Not a threat, at least not the kind he was trained to neutralize. "Where will you go?" he asked. Nora's shoulders slumped. "Don't know. Our home, destroyed. We are, last ones." The implications of her words hit Jackson like a physical blow. Refugees. Not just from another country, but another world entirely. The magnitude of their loss was incomprehensible. Lightning flashed again, illuminating the barn in stark white light. In that brief moment, Jackson saw not aliens but a family, a mother trying desperately to protect her children in a hostile universe. "You'll stay here," he heard himself say, surprising even himself with the firmness of his decision. "At least until the little ones healed up." Relief washed across Nora's luminescent features. "Thank you," she whispered. As Jackson led them toward the house, rain still pounding down around them, he wondered what the hell he was getting himself into. Military training had prepared him for many things, but harboring extraterrestrial refugees wasn't covered in any manual he'd ever read. One thing was certain, his quiet, solitary life had just become infinitely more complicated. Jackson's farmhouse felt smaller with 3 aliens inside it. Nora had to duck through doorways, her luminescent form casting ghostly blue patterns across the walls. The twins, Taro and Vela, moved with an uncanny grace despite their obvious exhaustion. "Sit," Jackson gestured to the couch, retrieving his first aid kit. Approaching Vela, he knelt. "May I?" Nora nodded, murmuring something to Vela in a language that sounded like wind chimes. The child extended her injured arm, the silvery blood now congealing. "Our biology different," Nora explained. "But wounds similar." Jackson cleaned the cut carefully. "How'd you learn English?" "Intercepted transmissions. Studied while traveling." "Not perfect." "Better than my alien," Jackson replied, earning surprised blinks from the twins. As he bandaged Vela's arm, Taro explored the living room, fascinated by ordinary objects, the remote control, a paperback novel, a ceramic mug. His fingers left faint glowing traces that faded seconds later. "Your world, beautiful," Nora said softly. "Much like ours was." "What happened?" Jackson asked, securing the bandage. Nora's violet eyes dimmed. "The Vreks came. Warriors, conquerors. They wanted our technology, our resources. We were peaceful, scientists, artists. Not fighters." Her voice cracked. "Our world burned in 3 Earth days." Jackson felt a hollowness in his chest. "I'm sorry." "Many escaped. Most captured. We hid among asteroids, repaired damaged scout ship. Came here because..." She hesitated. "Earth similar. Thought we could blend." Jackson glanced at their glowing skin and 7-foot stature. Blending might be challenging. A sound like tinkling bells emanated from Nora, laughter, Jackson realized. Yes. Poor planning. Taro had discovered the kitchen and was examining the refrigerator with intense curiosity. "This holds food?" he asked, his English better than his mother's. "Among other things," Jackson answered, opening it. "Are you hungry?" The twins looked to Nora, who nodded hesitantly. "Our systems can process most carbon-based organics. Unprocessed better." Jackson grabbed apples, carrots, and celery. The aliens sniffed each offering cautiously before taking experimental bites. Their reactions were immediate, eyes widening with delight as they devoured everything. "These, magnificent," Nora declared, crunching an apple. "Much flavor." Jackson found himself smiling for the first time in months. "Wait till you try ice cream." That night, Jackson gave them his bedroom, taking the couch for himself. He lay awake for hours, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of his house, soft humming from the aliens' bioluminescent bodies, occasional whispers in their musical language. He'd spent years isolating himself from humanity after his last deployment. Now, ironically, he was harboring the least human beings imaginable. The absurdity wasn't lost on him. Morning brought new challenges. The twins were endlessly curious, activating every appliance in the kitchen. Jackson found them mesmerized by the toaster, watching bread brown with scientific fascination. "Your technology," Nora observed, "primitive but ingenious." "Thanks, I think," Jackson replied, rescuing the coffee maker from Taro's explorations. As they ate breakfast, the aliens consuming an alarming quantity of fruit, Jackson wondered about their future. They couldn't stay hidden forever in his farmhouse. "These Vreks," he asked, "could they have followed you here?" Nora's expression darkened. "Possible. Their tracking technology advanced. If they did." She didn't finish, but her protective glance toward the twins spoke volumes. "Then we'll need to be careful," Jackson said firmly. "No wandering outside during daylight. I'll get supplies from town today, more food, clothes that might fit." "Why help us?" Nora asked suddenly. "We bring danger to your home." Jackson considered the question, remembering faces from his past, civilians he'd helped in war-torn countries, fellow soldiers who'd sacrificed everything. Because, he said finally, that's what humans do when we're at our best. We help those who need it. As he drove to town later, Jackson couldn't shake the feeling that his quiet life had ended, and something much more important had begun. 3 weeks passed in an uneasy routine. Jackson taught Nora and the twins about Earth while fortifying the farmhouse, covering windows, establishing escape routes, creating hiding places. The aliens learned quickly, their luminescence now controllable enough to pass as human in dim light. One morning, Jackson returned from town with disturbing news. Government vehicles at the diner. Men in suits asking about strange lights in the sky. Nora froze, mid-bite into an apple. They search for us. Not necessarily, Jackson countered, though his expression betrayed concern. Could be routine investigation. That evening, headlights swept across the living room as a black SUV crawled past the property. Jackson peered through blinds, noting government plates. Department of Homeland Security, he whispered. This isn't good. Taro clutched his sister's hand. Will they hurt us? Jackson's jaw tightened. Not if I can help it. The next day brought an unexpected knock. Jackson ushered the aliens into the cellar hideout before answering. A tall woman in a dark suit stood on his porch, badge displayed. Agent Harlow, DHS. Mind if I ask a few questions? Jackson leaned casually against the doorframe. Something wrong? Investigating reports of unusual activity. Strange lights, power fluctuations. Her eyes scanned past him. Live alone, Mr. Reed? Just me and my thoughts. She smiled thinly. Mind if I come in? Actually, I do. No offense, but I value my privacy. That's why I moved to the middle of nowhere. Agent Harlow studied him. Military background, correct? Marines? Long time ago. Your neighbors mentioned you've been buying supplies for more than one person. Jackson shrugged. Winter's coming. I stock up. Her gaze lingered uncomfortably. If you notice anything unusual, call this number. She handed him a card. We'll be around. After she left, Jackson released his breath, watching her SUV disappear down the road. Below, the cellar door creaked open as Nora emerged, twins behind her. They suspect, she whispered. Yeah. Jackson pocketed the card. We need a contingency plan. That night, as the twins slept, Nora showed Jackson a small device, a metallic sphere that projected holographic star charts. Our home, she indicated a distant system. And transmission signals from other survivors. There are more of you? Scattered. Hiding on various worlds. Her violet eyes met his. This device can signal for help, but broadcast might be detected. By the Vrex? And your government. She deactivated the sphere. Both dangerous to us now. Jackson nodded grimly. We'll use it only if absolutely necessary. Days later, drone buzzing woke Jackson at dawn. He silently guided his guests deeper into the cellar as a mechanical eye hovered near windows. Government surveillance had begun in earnest. That evening, local news reported unusual atmospheric phenomena being investigated by federal authorities. Pictures showed a crash site in nearby woods, wreckage Jackson recognized as alien technology. They found your ship, he told Nora. Her luminescence dimmed with dread. They will trace energy signature here. Jackson checked his shotgun, mentally cataloging the weapons hidden throughout the house. How much time? Days. Perhaps hours. Lightning illuminated his determined face. Then we better be ready when they come. An ominous silence settled over the farm as surveillance intensified. 3 black SUVs now patrolled the roads, and drones made regular sweeps overhead. Jackson and his alien guests remained hidden inside, speaking in whispers. One morning, Jackson found Vela curled in the corner, her normally luminescent skin dull and ashen. "She's sick," Taro explained, hovering anxiously. Nora placed a hand on her daughter's forehead. "Her energy system failing. Needs stabilizing element not found on Earth." "What element?" Jackson asked. "Similar to your selenium, but different atomic structure." Nora's voice trembled. "Without it, she will fade." Jackson paced the room. "What about your ship? Could there be supplies?" "Possibly. But too dangerous. Government has site contained." Jackson checked his watch. "The nearest hospital is in Millerton. I have a friend there, Dr. Olivia Foster. She might help." "A human doctor cannot treat Vela's condition," Nora protested. "Maybe not, but Olivia has access to medical equipment. If you tell her what to look for." He met Nora's desperate gaze. "It's our only shot." That night, Jackson wrapped Vela in blankets and carried her to his truck. Nora disguised herself in his oversized clothes, her height less noticeable when seated. They left Taro hidden at the farm with emergency protocols in place. "If we're not back by dawn," Jackson instructed, "use the signal device." Headlights off, they navigated back roads, avoiding checkpoints. Twice they pulled into ditches as patrol vehicles passed. Vela's condition worsened, her breath coming in shallow gasps. At the hospital's rear entrance, Jackson texted Olivia. Minutes later, she appeared, eyes widening at Nora's alien features revealed in the dim light. "Jack, what the hell? Please, live. She's dying." Dr. Foster hesitated only briefly before her medical training took over. "Bring her inside. Use the service elevator." In an isolated lab, Olivia examined Vela while Nora explained the child's biology in halting terms. Jackson stood guard at the door, every passing minute stretching his nerves tighter. "This compound," Nora indicated on a hastily drawn diagram. "Similar to your selenium-tellurium compounds." Olivia worked frantically, combining elements from the hospital's chemical storage. "This is beyond experimental," she warned. "I'm guessing at dosages." "No choice," Nora whispered, cradling Vela's nearly translucent form. When the injection was administered, Vela's body convulsed, then gradually began to glow again, faint at first, then stronger. "It's working," Jackson breathed. Olivia slumped against the counter. "God help me if anyone finds out what I just did." "Thank you," Nora said, the words inadequate for the emotion behind them. Their relief was short-lived. Hospital security radios crackled with alerts. Federal agents had arrived, searching the building. "They tracked us," Jackson realized. "We need to move." Olivia led them through maintenance corridors to a loading dock. "My car's there. Take it." "They'll know you helped us," Jackson warned. "Doesn't matter. That child deserves to live, no matter what planet she's from." As they prepared to leave, Vela reached for Olivia's hand, transferring a small glowing pattern onto the doctor's skin. "Bond mark," Nora explained. "Highest honor. You now part of her life force." Tears welled in Olivia's eyes as the mark faded, absorbed into her skin. "Go. Now." The drive back was tense, roadblocks forcing them onto increasingly remote paths. Dawn approached as they finally reached the farm, only to find flashing lights surrounding the property. "Taro," Nora gasped. Jackson stopped the car behind a ridge, observing the scene through binoculars. Agents swarmed his home, but there was no sign of Taro. "The cellar passage," he whispered. "He might have escaped to the caves." As if in answer, a faint blue light pulsed from the nearby hillside. Their contingency plan. "He's safe," Nora breathed. "For now." Jackson started the engine again. "We can't go back. Time for Plan B." The abandoned fire lookout tower on Black Ridge Mountain offered a temporary sanctuary. From this vantage point, Jackson could see government vehicles surrounding his farm and patrolling nearby roads. Helicopters periodically swept the forest below. Signal activated, Nora whispered, the small sphere pulsing in her hands. Taro huddled beside her, while Vela, still weak but recovering, slept on a makeshift bed. How long before help arrives? Jackson asked, binoculars trained on the valley. Days, perhaps. If message received. Jackson nodded grimly. We need supplies. I'll go tonight. Under cover of darkness, he slipped down to a small town 15 miles away, stealing supplies from a general store with military precision. When he returned, Nora had news. Response received. Ship coming. 3 Earth days. Relief washed over Jackson before reality crashed back. We need to hold out until then. The next morning brought crisis. A forest ranger, making routine checks, discovered their hideout. Jackson subdued him without injury but knew their location was compromised. We move. Now. They fled deeper into the wilderness, Nora carrying Vela while Jackson and Taro hauled supplies. By nightfall, they reached an abandoned mine, their final fallback position. Transmission coordinates locked, Nora confirmed. Rescue will find us here. Dawn brought the sound of vehicles and search parties. Agent Harlow's voice echoed through bullhorns, Jackson Reed. We have you surrounded. Surrender the extraterrestrial subjects immediately. Jackson positioned himself at the mine entrance, shotgun ready. Stay back. I'll buy time. Nora caught his arm. They will kill you. Maybe. His weathered face softened. But some things are worth dying for. As federal agents approached, Jackson stepped forward. That's far enough. Agent Harlow emerged, flanked by armed men. Stand down, Reed. This is a matter of national security. They're refugees, Jackson countered. A mother and children running from genocide. They're unknown entities with technology beyond our comprehension. Potential threats. The only threat here is ignorance, Jackson replied, raising his shotgun. They go free or nobody does. The standoff stretched into hours. Inside the mine, the twins huddled against Nora as the signal sphere pulsed more rapidly. Close, Nora whispered. Help coming. The first shots came at dusk, warning fire from agents attempting to flank the position. Jackson responded, keeping them at bay while conserving ammunition. Night fell. Searchlights illuminated the area as a government negotiator tried reasoning with Jackson. This isn't you, Reed. You're a decorated Marine, a patriot. Exactly why I'm doing this, Jackson replied. Some principles transcend borders, even planetary ones. Near midnight, Nora's sphere flashed urgently. Now, she said, violet eyes wide. They come now. The sky erupted with light, not government helicopters, but something massive descending through clouds. Wind whipped through trees as Earth trembled beneath an otherworldly vibration. Federal agents scattered, weapons trained skyward as a ship unlike anything human technology could produce hovered above the clearing. Jackson stood transfixed as a beam of light shot from the vessel, creating a column of energy beside him. Nora gathered her children. Come with us, she urged Jackson. He hesitated, looking from the chaos of fleeing agents to the aliens he'd risked everything to protect. This is my world, he said finally. Flawed as it is. Someone needs to stay, tell your story. Show that humanity can be better. Nora's luminescence brightened with emotion. She pressed her hand to his chest, transferring a glowing mark like the one Vela had given Olivia. You are Kitharin now, family. Not forgotten. As they stepped into the light, Taro broke away suddenly, running back to press something into Jackson's hand, a small crystalline object that pulsed with inner light. "To call us," the boy said simply before rejoining his family. The light intensified, then vanished, along with Nora and the twins. The ship ascended rapidly, disappearing into the night sky as government forces regrouped. Agent Harlow approached cautiously, finding Jackson standing alone, the strange crystal clutched in his hand. "They're gone," he said. "And I have one hell of a story to tell."